turn it up again, burn it up again. From your ear that you not drop, just money pull up again. Mount a woman in the place, I me say look how much of them still you me love, baby, me swear.
Cause I don't care when I'm with my baby, yeah. Oh yeah. All the bad things disappear. You're making me feel like maybe I am somebody. I can deal with the bad nights when I'm with my baby, yeah. When I'm with my baby, oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Cause I don't care as long as you just hold me near. You can take me anywhere. You're making me feel like I'm loved by somebody. I can deal with the bad nights when I'm with my baby, yeah.
99.9 WEFM. WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
So time here in SVG, it is 8:14 and we are back with you for another commentary segment on today's Activated Mornings program. In studio, you have Dianna, Cain, and myself, Roleza Samuel, and we are here to make your morning a good one. At least try. We're trying, all right? We're trying. Could always let us know if we're succeeding later on, but we're trying, okay? All right, so we're going to head into another topic at this time. And for those of you on the live, or I would suggest try to hop on the live, all right? So we are getting into a topic. Is Kingstown accommodating to those who use motorized wheelchairs, all right? And I think we just want to extend the discussion, not just motorized wheelchairs, but those who may have disabilities of one sort or another. Is Kingstown accommodating to such persons? All right. So head on to the live because we are going to show a video very, very shortly of a lady who was using a motorized wheelchair in traffic. And yeah, we're going to get into it. All right. So head on over to the live because I'm going to show it now. All right, so we see a lady in front of a what it looks like it's a truck, and she is along back street. All right, so I just want to show it again. So she is there. Now, I've noticed that some persons may have seen the video shown on social media. So I had to mute it because, of course, you know, in typical Vinci language, we have to use colorful words to describe a situation. All right. But so this lady is there. She is within the actual line of traffic, and she is using a motorized wheelchair to head on up the road. All right. Now, I know that some persons, when they saw it, they thought that it was amusing. And of course, I can't really fault persons for seeing the humor in certain things because, of course, it's this lady who is there and, you know, not going very fast. And we, you know how we are as Vincentians when we drive. We always trying to get to everywhere we're going quickly as possible, right? But she is there, not going very quickly. And in essence, she would be holding up traffic. All right. Now, the reason why it is that I'm bringing this up is that I actually did witness this lady a few Fridays ago, and she was across the crossing by Bank of SVG. Well, there are two Bank of SVGs there now, but by Reigate. So where the crossing is there, she was going over to the crossing, but then she turned back. Right, she turned back, and the way in which she angled her wheelchair was that she was going to be in the line of traffic towards traffic that was coming up. Right. So initially, when I saw her coming across the crossing, so I kind of slowed down because, you know, just in case drivers or whoever didn't see her. So I kind of slowed down my walk on the crossing to allow for her to come up. Right. So she came across the crossing, and then another driver was actually there, and he saw the flag down vehicles to tell them to slow down because, you know, somebody is coming across the crossing, etc. But she turned back, and I couldn't understand why she turned back. And the way when she turned back, she turned facing traffic. So if anybody was, you know, yes, persons are supposed to slow down when they're approaching a crossing, but, you know, it doesn't always happen. So she really frightened me. She really, really and truly did frighten me. So I stood there looking at the situation. But what it is that came across me was the reason why it is that she turned back is because she was not able to go down from the road itself, from the street to the sidewalk, because it's not a smooth transition. So she actually ended up having to get help from somebody to wheel her backwards to allow her to come across, because it's like a drop, right? Even for us walking, it's like a drop. So that would have been the reason why it is that she turned around. Now, the thing of it is that I know in the past, I think that this was one of the comments that was made with regards to Kingstown when it have cruise ship passengers, in that there are persons who are using wheelchairs or who may not necessarily be able to walk steps, etc. That Kingstown is not very accommodating to such persons. So what we saw happening is that some places they were smoothed over to allow for wheelchairs or ramps, etc. For that sort of accessibility. But then upon seeing this lady, initially when I saw her, I was like, okay, normally when we see somebody in a wheelchair, there's somebody along there to assist them. But when I saw her, I kind of mentally smiled, because I'm saying, oh, well, look at her being very independent. She is, yes, she may have a disability, but she is asserting her independence because she's in town. It's a motorized wheelchair, so she can get to wherever she needs to go without the assistance of another person. But Kingstown, or at least that part of Kingston, and I noticed where it is that I saw this video, somebody commented under the post that they too also had to help that lady. It may have been the same day that I saw her, it may have been another day, but they had to help her to another place on Bay Street at that time. So it's this whole thing of how accommodating is Kingstown for persons who are differently able, those who are using motorized wheelchairs, those who may have, let's say, a little bit of a challenge with climbing steps, etc. Are we accommodating in that aspect? And persons who are trying to assert their independence are not trying to become a burden onto other persons in terms of you have to call somebody to help me do this and help me do that. Given that Kingstown is the main central business district in terms of everything happens just about in Kingstown, can persons who are differently abled actually do things or do anything in Kingstown itself?
Well, I am on the topic of that independence and doing the things in Kingstown. It's definitely going to be a challenge, as you saw with this lady. I don't think Kingstown is very accommodating. If we take a lot of things into consideration, the sidewalks, getting on and off the sidewalks, even the buildings themselves, they actually aren't accommodating. It's a bit unfortunate now that we're thinking about it. It's quite sad, actually. But there's always hope for the future. So I'm glad that some places saw the need to put up some ramps and so on. But our sidewalks are sort of narrow as well. So I don't know how we're gonna fix that one. We have some narrow sidewalks. We don't really have ramps everywhere. We have some to get on and off some sidewalks. You have to use steps. For some of them, you have to use steps. Getting into stores. Some stores are very small. Some business places are very small. You don't really have much room to. I mean, you as a person, you have to twist and turn and kind of how to get through certain spots. So imagine you in a wheelchair, that really isn't accommodating. And if some buildings that have more than one floor, they don't have elevators. So, and it's steps you have to use. So it's actually quite not accommodating for persons in those situations.
But even in considering persons who are getting into, let's say, government buildings themselves, is it that maybe more needs to be done there? Because if nothing else, if persons want to go pay their bills, go pay their license, go pay this, go pay that, the basic things that you have to pay towards government, maybe it can start with government buildings. And by extension, those persons, other businesses within Kingstown itself. But I think even as we develop and we fix roads, we also have to look at that whole thing from the transition from the road itself onto the pavements, and even on the sidewalks themselves. Sometimes the sidewalks, they are cracked, stones, not really the best. Sometimes you're trying to walk on. I know I was in two minds with this whole thing of the cobblestones in Kingstown, right? Because while it is historical, yes, it is absolutely gorgeous to look at when the town is empty, like on a Sunday on a public holiday, when the place is empty, they're gorgeous to look at. But in practical senses, right? In a practical sense, they are not the best, right? Whenever it rains, sometimes it's just safer for you to walk in the road than to walk on the cobblestones, right? I noted that even going up across where's that place in Upper Middle Street? So the back of KCCU area. I honestly feel as if that road was probably the same road that was there ever since it was put down, because those cobblestones are loose. The road is also it's slanted inwards, like it caves inwards. So even for ladies walking in heels, I remember passing a lady the other, and she said, "But this is the worst place I walked." Yeah, and she chose to walk, but I guess she had business to do somewhere across there, which was why she was walking there. But that place in particular is not really the best. So we have to think about these things. We also have to look at the fact that it's tourism, right? And I'm not sure if I finished the point, but persons on the cruise ships, they were saying that Kingstown isn't very accessible for persons in wheelchairs, and some work was actually done, right, to allow for ramps to be there, for that to be a bit more of a smoother transition for persons within Kingstown. But a lot more needs to be done, all right? And as I said initially, that there are persons who are trying to be independent. You may have found yourself having this disability for whatever reason, and you do not want to become a burden to individuals, right? But if you have to come into Kingstown to conduct business, you don't necessarily want to send somebody either, because you just never know, right? You can be trusting, but sometimes you have to be trusting to a point. So maybe these are little things that the authorities need to look at. Maybe just take a walk, on a day when it is empty, when the place is quiet. Maybe even walk along with somebody who is differently abled. And then maybe you'd be able to see the challenges that they are facing for yourself, so that you'd be able to know how to address and maybe to fix them. All right.
Yep.
And even for me, I am not physically challenged, but I use the ramps all the time instead of the stairs. All right. Once that is possible, I use the ramps instead of the stairs. There's a particular part in Kingston, I never use the stairs. All right. So, just consider those things as well. All right. So, yep, that's it on this topic. Any further final thoughts?
Nah, that's it.
All right, so we are going to head on out. At 8:30, we'll be bringing to you an interview with the Public Service Union. So you would want to stay tuned for that. We'll be back with more Activated Mornings in a moment.